Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today for our Faith in Housing Charlotte and Enterprise Faith-Based Development Initiative Technical Assistance Cohort Request for Applications. That was a mouthful. Pre-submission webinar. My name is Tim Block, Senior Director of Programs with Enterprise Community Partners, and I have the privilege of leading our faith-based development efforts in the Southeast. I would also like to recognize Dr. Christy Cade, our VP and market leader, as well as Shannon Ball, an associate director, who both give invaluable support to our faith-based development work. We appreciate all of you taking the time to be here with us today and for your interest in our faith-based development initiative technical assistance cohort program. I would like to quickly review the topics that we'll be covering during today's request for application pre-submission webinar. We'll do a brief introduction on Enterprise Community Partners. We'll give an overview of the Faith in Housing Charlotte and Enterprise Faith-Based Development Initiative. We'll also give very important information for the applicants. We'll talk about the FBDI Technical Assistance Cohort Program. We'll dive into the eligibility and program requirements. We'll talk about submission requirements and the evaluation criteria for being selected into the program. We'll also go into great detail on the submission instructions and actually walk you through the process and leave plenty of time for Q&A. A very important disclaimer before we go any further. It's so important that I'm going to read this slide. The content included in this webinar is only intended to summarize the contents of the request for application, or RFA. Any content within this presentation that appears discrepant from the language in the RFA is superseded by the language in the RFA. All applicants are strongly encouraged to carefully read the RFA guidelines and adhere to them. To summarize all that, the information in the RFA is the gospel and should be your guide. Next, I'll give a quick overview of Enterprise Community Partners for those of you not already familiar with us and explain our overarching faith-based development initiative. So who is Enterprise? Enterprise is a national nonprofit whose mission is to make home and community places of pride, power, and belonging. We like to say that we are the Swiss Army knife of community development and affordable housing, meaning that we bring an array of resources and tools to bear to help get affordable housing built. We support community development organizations on the ground through our solutions division and the programs that we offer. We have 11 market offices across the country, and in each of those markets, the affordable housing crisis looks a little bit different. So we're left up to our own to come up with programs and important things that we're going to tackle that has relevance to our local community. We also aggregate and invest capital for impact. We have a CDFI, which is a Community Development Financial Institute, which is similar to a bank, where we provide all ranges of products and services for developers, both for-profit and nonprofit, of affordable housing. We do acquisition lending, we do pre-development lending, we do construction financing, permanent financing, and we also have an investment side where we actually invest in the low-income housing tax credit. In addition to the capital that we provide, we also have a mortgage platform as well. But in addition to the capital that we provide, we also advance housing through policy. We do policy on both the national and the local level. In fact, we have the largest policy team in the country. We're on the Hill every day advocating for resources for more affordable housing. And each of the 11 market offices that we have their own state and local policy director that focuses on local issues. Since 1982, we have invested over $80 billion and created 1 million homes across all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. We actually also own and operate over 13,000 affordable homes in the Mid-Atlantic. We saw an opportunity there where those homes were going to go from being affordable to turning into market rate. So we stepped in and we actually purchased the portfolio and have been managing them ever since. And now we're looking at developing new units as well. So our faith-based development initiative, just giving you an overview of how we got started and what we do. We got started with our faith-based development initiative in the Mid-Atlantic back in 2006. But if I back up even further, Enterprise itself actually got started from a faith-based encounter. Our founder, Jim Rouse, was a well-known prominent developer on the East Coast. And he was approached by three women from his church that asked if he would help them. They wanted to take three dilapidated buildings in their community and turn them to affordable housing units. Mr. Rouse did what every good developer does. He ran the numbers and said, "Hey, this doesn't pencil out. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. I can't help." So never estimate the faith of three women of God. They actually went back, got the resources together and bought the property, and then came back to Mr. Ross and said, "Hey, we purchased the property. Now what are you willing to do?" He was so moved that he not only helped them with those three developments, but it was the emphasis for Enterprise Foundation, now Enterprise Community Partners, getting started. And then since that time, we've been very much active in working with the faith-based community in all aspects of the work that we do. Our goals for the program are ultimately expanding the supply of housing across the country, supporting equitable procurement. So if there is a house of worship that wants to undertake development and they want to hire within their community, so folks that reside in the community have opportunities, we support those efforts as well. We also are um, very impactful in strengthening neighborhood and anchor institutions, the House of Worship and other institutions as well. And our ultimate aim is to build an enterprise program while nurturing a national movement. We know that we can't do it by ourselves. We have to involve others. So we want to nurture a national movement. And this is becoming a national movement, the faith-based development efforts. So why are we doing this? We like to say that it's radical common sense. There's a need and there's potential. The need is that 20% of renters pay more than 50% of their income for housing, when that should only be 30%. Approximately 600,000 homeless individuals are in the United States, and 13 million live in food deserts. And another startling statistic is that half of Americans live in a child care desert. The potential, if you look around, there are houses of worship, and we're intentional about saying houses of worship because we'll work with any faith, any denomination, help them make an informed go or no go decision on whether or not it makes sense for them to try to develop the land that they own and control into affordable housing units. And then we help them with resources to move their projects forward. But there's studies that have shown that houses of worship own land across the country. One study alone by the Urban Institute estimates that there are 800 vacant parcels owned by houses of worship in the DMV area. And those parcels alone could yield anywhere from 43,000 to 109,000 new housing units. And that is significant. And then also with the COVID-19 pandemic, more and more houses of worship are seeing their congregations dwindle, with folks not coming back to the houses of worship, but going online, and they have this property that they're sitting on that is underutilized. And it's an estimate that 100,000 churches may even close between 2015 and 2030. So our approach for the faith-based development initiative is to provide training. We do a overview of the development process. We created a national curriculum that we walk houses of worship through, and we'll cover that in more detail later. But what it is that we're really trying to expose houses of worship to the development process and all that entails. We're not trying to make them experts, not trying to turn them from being pastors or lay leaders into developers, but what we want to do is to make them comfortably conversant in the development process. Because 9 times out of 10, if they continue to move their projects forward, they're going to have to partner with a seasoned developer to help see the project come to fruition, to bring their resources to bear, and just to help, continue along the journey. So we also provide capital. In this particular cohort that we're running, the city of Charlotte is providing early pre-development expenses and early pre-development grants for expenses that a house of worship might have. If they want to do market study, feasibility analysis, those grant resources can be utilized for that. I mentioned all the resources that Enterprise has from a funding standpoint. Participants in the cohort program will have access to all of Enterprise products as well. I'm not saying that you will automatically get them, but we'll show you how to navigate and how to position yourself best to be able to compete and to acquire those resources. We're also big on peer learning. We're currently operating cohorts in Metro Atlanta and South Florida. We have 33 houses of worship that we're working with, and that's just in our Southeast footprint. But we have access to peer learning exchanges between those folks that have been on the journey and folks that are entering into the journey in this Charlotte Faith-Based Development Initiative that we're launching. In addition to that, all of our cohort participants have access to experts. We call it a bullpen where we have professionals there that range from real estate attorneys, architects, environmentalists, anything that you need to continue to help do the pre-development activities for your project. We have a bullpen of vetted professionals that you can reach out to for assistance. And then finally, probably the most critical piece is the technical assistance, which takes two forms. The first being pairing the cohort participants with a development consultant that works with them one-on-one for their specific project to help translate what they learned during the curriculum to what they need to do next to continue to move their projects forward. And then addition to that, and the city will be providing those resources for the cohort participants. But in addition to that, you have access to myself, Shannon Ball, who you'll hear from shortly, and our FPDI Southeast team to do shepherding TA. Just really encourage you to prioritize things, to check in with you. Often to make sure that you are, moving forward, that you have the resources in place, and that you're able to continue to prioritize your projects. And then something that we just added to the program is a clergy coaching element where we pair, if needed, seasoned clergy who have actually done a project from start to finish with a participant in the cohort, the senior pastor to a pastor, so that they can commiserate sometimes, they can learn best practices, they can break down some of the barriers to understanding how to undertake the development process. So that's something that we just incorporated into the program. So the next few slides will cover important information for the houses of worship that are considering submitting applications for the Faith and Housing Charlotte FPDI Technical Assistance Cohort, and I'll just walk you through some of those things. So over the next year, Enterprise will work with up to 12 faith-based organizations to create affordable homes in the city of Charlotte through the FPDI Technical Assistance Cohort Program. Faith-based organizations participating in the FPDI Technical Assistance Cohort Program will gain access to funding that I mentioned before through the City of Charlotte, training, that's the national curriculum that I mentioned, which will be both virtual and in-person trainings to help, again, participant understands the ins and outs of the development process. We will also provide the one-on-one technical assistance that I mentioned, and the goal there is to help overcome obstacles during the development process, as well as access to informational tools and resources, including the bullpen that I mentioned. And then I mentioned the peer learning already. And yeah, so that's a comprehensive approach to what we do. In addition to that, we have an online library of FPDI tools and resources to continue to supplement and help the houses of worship as they engage in their projects. So if you undertake development, whether you are a faith-based organization, a for-profit developer, or nonprofit developers, there's really 7 phases or 7 steps to development. And we, for the faith-based organizations, think there is a first step, which is step 0 or discernment. Really understanding what God is calling you all to do for your communities. You might have some initial thoughts about doing affordable housing and or a community serving facility, but are you prepared to do that? Or do you have the buy-in from the congregation? Do you have at least a thought of an idea of what you want to do? So we talk about discernment in our curriculum as well. And then the 7 steps are, again, applicable to any developer: visioning and acquisition, partnership and procurement, financing the project, designing the project, development, and construction of the project, and management of the project once the project is complete. So in order to help you better understand those 7 steps, we created a national curriculum. You can see it's broken down into 5 modules, and the cohort participants will actively go through this curriculum. So the first module is an introduction to real estate. We really want you to understand what affordable housing is. Again, how to make those decisions about development, understanding internally what your command structure is as far as decision making. Is there a body that you report to, that you need to get buy-in or get their blessings? All that is impactful on the project and needs to be understood and navigated. We also talk about organizational readiness. We talk about strategies for development, what types of development. There's all kind of affordable housing development you could pursue. So we really engage in those subjects. The second module is around development decisions and community engagement. It's critically important that you make sure that you have the buy-in from the community from day one. So we talk about that. We have a partner that will be partnering with us on this initiative who will go into a lot more detail about the local context in Charlotte about community engagement. And then the third module is project design and construction. So what type of project do you want to do? Some folks might say they want to do a senior deal. It's important that you know what a market feasibility study is, so that if you have that thought, are there 3 other senior facilities in the area that, this is, maybe not as needed as other developments. So helping you understand the importance of a market study and feasibility analysis, the importance of selecting the right design team and the concept that you want to pursue, approvals, environmental, the development budget primer. We'll start talking about that. The most important aspect of development is the capital stack of the performance. So we spend a lot of time talking about that, and you get a primer in this third module. And then if you want to pursue green building or resilience for your project, we talk about that as well. The fourth module is all around structuring the deal and finding those resources to put the capital stack together so that the project can be completed. We talk about, again, joint venture partnership. 9 times out of 10, a house of worship is not going to be able to do a project, at least their first project, on their own. So we talk about how you structure a joint venture partnership, how you negotiate the best partnership for the house of worship and the congregation. So we go into a lot of details, in that module on that. We talk about legal ramifications as well. Then the final module is operations, talking about, if you are going to stay in the project, if you're going to own it, the importance of property management, asset management, so that you can retain that asset for the long run. And some funding sources that you get, they have particular compliance things that you have to follow in order to get that funding from them. So we talk about the importance of being able to report and maintain that compliance standard. So that's the curriculum. Want to spend some time quickly covering the important eligibility and program requirements of the program, and the information that I'll cover is pulled directly from the request for application, which I believe Shannon put the link of those documents in the chat already for you. So the first thing to note is that applicants must meet all requirements listed in the call for applications. Eligible organizations are either a house of worship or a nonprofit community development organization tied to a house of worship. So that could be some house of worship has started their own community development corporations. It could be that type of entity. It could be a St. Vincent de Paul type organization that has a loose affiliation with a congregation. And so those are the organizations that are eligible. And they must own land or property that's in the city of Charlotte that they would like to pursue either an affordable housing project or a mixed-use development that is community serving. So it could be a senior daycare, small grocery store. Those things that will serve the community are also eligible for this cohort program. The only qualifying geography for this particular cohort in Charlotte is that the project must be located in the city of Charlotte. Core participants will be expected to stay engaged with enterprise community partners and the city of Charlotte for the period of time that they are pursuing their development projects in order to access the funding support for the market study, the feasibility analysis, and the other pre-development activities for your project. And that grant funding, again, is going to come from the city of Charlotte. As it relates to reporting, participants will be required to provide periodic information that will help enterprise evaluate the impact of the FPDI Technical Assistance Cohort Program. We continue on to try to make the program better and stronger, so your feedback is critically important as we move forward. And also some of the reporting requirements are tied to the funding support that we get for the program. And we also ask that cohort participants share any work products developed through the cohort program with enterprise. i.e., if you do reports or requests for proposals for a development partner, those are yours to have and to own, but we ask that you just share a copy with us so that we can continue to inform the program going forward. And with that, next, I'll cover the submission requirements and the criteria that will be used to evaluate the applications for selection into the cohort program. There are actually three components of the RFA, and you will see that if you click on the link and you're following along, you will see the three components of the RFA that will need to be completed by all the applicants. The first is accessing Slide Room, creating an account, and answering the questions in Slide Room associated with the FBDI program participant initial assessment. Shannon's going to walk you through everything I'm saying right now, but I just want to quickly go over the elements and then she'll reinforce those things. Second is the organizational narrative. That should be no longer than 2 pages and include responding to each of the bullets listed on this slide. You will upload the file into the Slide Room application portal when prompted. And again, we'll show you how to do that. And finally, the third component is to complete the FBDI organizational assessment document. I mentioned that early on in the presentation, but this gives us a baseline of kind of where you are with your thoughts on doing a affordable housing or community serving facility project. We know that there's some questions in there, given this early stage of the program, you might not be able to answer, and that's totally fine. We just ask that you provide as much detail as you can and as you have, and from there, again, we can establish a baseline. And with that, this is the third component. This is the organizational assessment that I mentioned. There's a link in this slide, on the slide, that shows you how to do that. And with that, I will turn it over to Shannon to talk about, oh, I'm sorry, I got one more slide to cover. My apologies. The selection criteria and the evaluation. So the applications will be reviewed by enterprise staff. Each of the application will be evaluated on the following criteria that you see. So organizational capacity to pursue an affordable housing and or community serving facility development project, including the staff's capacity to complete the training. Their dedicated time to working with enterprise and with the city. That's 40 points for that section of the application. And then that organizational narrative that I mentioned, how well you complete that is 35 points. And then a completed FBDI organizational assessment. Again, you may not be able to answer all the questions, but we ask that you fill it out as completely as you can, and that's worth up to 20 points. And then the fact that you have clear ownership and site control of the property is critical. So there's 5 points given for that. So with that, I will now turn it over to Shannon to talk about the submission instructions.
Hi, folks. Apologies for the shift. Having a small computer issue on my computer. So we wanted to go through the submission instructions. I'll be referencing both the request for applications landing page as well as the slide room portal that were both placed in your chat through these next few slides. There are a few places where we want to make sure you are clear and have a good sense of what you will be asked to do in order to submit a complete application. As I said, the application is available on the Enterprise Community Partners website. If you click the link in the chat, it will take you directly to the Request for Applications landing page. If you Google applications, Faith in Housing Charlotte, Enterprise, Faith-Based Development, any combination of those terms, you should be able to pull up the landing page as well. And you will see a clear title at the top of the page. You will then see a narrative explanation of the cohort and a brief outline of how it will work. And then at the bottom of the page, you will see this information, which I know is small here, but we're just giving you a sense of the structure of the page. We want to make sure you see all the different elements of the information here, including some registration dates and deadlines, some links, as well as some helpful guides. I want to note the slide room guide available on this page. What we're going to do is we're going to jump down to this how to apply section. The first thing we're going to do is recommend that you spend a good bit of time reviewing the request for applications document. You can view it right there on that link. Any questions about the programmatic element of the program can go to Tim right here through this link. A note to please put Faith in Housing RFA question in the subject line so we make sure we get back to you in a prompt manner. And then finally, step 3 will be submitting a proposal, and that's what we'll go over here. You'll see here we've zeroed in on the submit a proposal link, which takes you to this slide room portal, which is also in your chat. Again, making sure you see the Faith in Housing Charlotte title at the top of the page. This gives you another brief description, as well as a sense that there are 3 elements of the application process, as well as a chance to preview the full application. And when you are ready, you're going to hit that Apply Now button. And that Apply Now button will then take you to the slide room login page, where you can either log in through the name and password spaces provided here, or you can create a login. So once again, if you do not have a slide room login already, it is very simple to create one here on this page. And then once you enter into the application, there are 3 elements of the application. The first is a program participant initial assessment. Again, making sure you see that word Charlotte there. This is basic information about your organization, your leadership, mailing address, contact information, very basic information. This information will be inputted directly into SlideRoom here through these available portal text boxes. You can just put it right into SlideRoom. When you go into the second part of the application, the organizational narrative, this is where we want to make sure you are very clear. The SlideRoom portal will offer you this page, an organizational narrative, 2 pages max, and it will give you instructions to please refer back to the organizational narrative section of the request for applications document. Once again, it's going to send you back to the information on the request for applications document available on that main landing page. And that information is previewed for you here. Basically, this is an opportunity where we want to give you a chance to write a narrative document response to these prompts, which Tim has talked about previously, but we want to be very clear that what you will do here is respond here with a maximum of 2 pages and then create a document file that you then upload here into SlideRoom. Once again, the first part of the application will be put directly into SlideRoom. The second part will be an uploaded file. The third part will be similar to the second as an uploaded file. Once you go into SlideRoom to the third part of the application, the organizational assessment, again, it will send you back to the request for applications document. Here you will see this RFA document screenshot where you will click on that link and fill out that organizational assessment document. Please note that we understand that you may not be able to fully answer all of these questions. Indeed, the intent of the cohort program is to help you better answer these questions. However, I do want to reiterate that we would love for you to try to give them as good an answer as you have at this time. It really does help us get a sense of where you are in the development process. Those are the 3 elements of the program. Again, I'm going to go back just so you're super clear. Part 1 is put directly into SlideRoom. Part 2 is a uploaded document. And part 3 is a linked assessment that you will complete and then upload as a file. A few notes here for navigating SlideRoom. Tim Block is happy to answer any programmatic questions you may have about the program at his email. Any technical issues such as logging in, resetting a password, etc., should go directly to the SlideRoom experts at their customer service team. You'll see here an email as well as a web address, where you can achieve help. If you are logged in to the SlideRoom portal, you'll notice there is a help button at the top right. A reminder that there is a SlideRoom guide on the main RFA landing page. SlideRoom features, just so you're comfortable with the program as you are working in it. SlideRoom will automatically save your work as it is entered. If you log out, you can log back in as many times as you need to complete the application to your satisfaction until the deadline or until it is submitted. Once an application is submitted, it will not be able to be edited. An important note here, once an application is submitted, you will see a confirmation number come up on your screen, as well as the date and time of your submission. We recommend you write this information down and keep it for your records. Additionally, you will receive an email for your records with this information. We recommend you keep this as well. And lastly, a reminder, proposals are due by 11:59 p.m. on September 12th, 2025. That is a hard deadline. App must be submitted via SlideRoom which can be accessed in the request for applications document via a link or on the RFA landing page. And the RFA landing page is again provided for you here. It can also be found on the Enterprise Community Partners webpage, and it can be Googled using the terms Faith and Housing Charlotte Enterprise FBDI Cohort. And with that, I'm going to give you back to Tim before we do some questions. Apologies again for the shuffle.
All right, everyone. Thank you, Shannon. Before we open it up for Q&A, I wanted to just remind everyone of the timeline. Shannon mentioned submission deadline is September 12th, 2025. I strongly encourage you not to wait till September 12th to try to start uploading. In case you run into any issues or problems, please give us ample time to be able to help troubleshoot them. So reach out if you have issues of any kind. Shannon explained if there's programmatic issues, reach out to me. If there's issues with Slide Room itself, reach out to Slide Room. But if you're not getting a response from Slide Room in a timely manner, please let us know as well. The evaluation and selection process, which will include site visits to the House of Worship that we're considering for the program, will happen between September 22nd and October 3rd. And our goal is to announce awardees into the cohort program on October the 7th. Again, if you have any inquiries or any questions, you can reach out to me directly at the email address on the slide. And with that, we thank you for your time, and we have plenty of time for Q&A, so we will move to that.
All right, thanks, Tim. I am going to read some of the questions that are placed in the chat. First question here is, will the slides be available after the webinar?
Absolutely. We plan on sending out the slides as well as a recording to this webinar to all the participants who have registered for the webinar.
Thanks. Next question is, do you know when the cohort meetings will be?
Yes, we have a schedule now. We are working on confirming the location. All of the, and I think this is one of the questions I saw in there as well, Harold. All of the curriculum sessions are going to be in person. There's 13 of them. They're 90 minutes. They're scheduled in the evening, and I think our start time is
approximately 6 p.m. depending on schedule.
Yeah, approximately 6 p.m. They're an hour and a half, and we do have the dates. We can share the dates with everyone when we send out the materials, but we're again hoping to get started on the 15th of October, I think October 16th. October 16th. And then I don't know if we amplify this or if we pull this out, but the way that the program works is you have the curriculum every other week, and then in the weeks that we're not meeting, we have office hours. And those office hours are intended for House of the Worship that may have a question coming out of the last class to log into a Zoom and be in a waiting room and be able to come in and ask that question of the instructor, myself and Shannon, in a way that, if it's something that you didn't want to bring out to the whole class, you can bring out in those office hours. So those are all going to be virtual, and those will be in the afternoons on the off week that we're not meeting.
Okay, perfect. How many groups or churches will be selected?
Up to 12 for this first cohort. We're hopeful that if everything goes well, there's the potential that we could do a second cohort, but for this first cohort, 12 houses of worship will be selected.
And are cohort meetings in person or Teams or Zoom? I think you answered that. It's in person, correct?
Correct. The curriculum portions are in person and the office hours are virtual.
Okay. Can a church join a cohort if it has intentions of purchasing land, or should land be in possession before being accepted into the cohort?
So for this cohort, our goal is to have houses of worship that actually own or have site control of the land of the property
To have
already.
access to this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say already in site control or in ownership.
To have access to this material and grants, must an organization be a part of a house of worship?
Yes, the qualifications, I think I mentioned earlier in the presentation, you have to be either a house of worship or a faith-based organization or a community development organization that has a direct tie to a house of worship. Those are the three criteria for selection and for consideration for selection into the program.
Next question is, will this type of program be available in Jacksonville, Florida in the future?
That's a very, very good question. So we are starting to have some exploration conversations in Jacksonville. Stay tuned. If you want to reach out to me directly about that, we can get you information on that. But we are starting to have some conversations in Jacksonville.
Next question is, if we are an organization serving youth in foster care who is looking to benefit from renting affordable housing units, how do we get on your radar or on the radar of the participants of this cohort?
Again, you can send me an email with your contact information, and we would love to stay in contact with you about, a potential collaboration or potentially plugging you in with houses of worship that are exploring and building those types of units for, youth aging out of foster care.
Okay. Next question is it imperative that the senior pastor attend, or could it be three representatives from the church?
That's the stick one. We say we want the senior pastor because they are the decision makers. They are the ones that set the tone, set the vision. It's really hard to take everything that we're teaching you in that 8 month period and try to take it back to the pastor and have them be informed. So our goal is to have the senior pastor participate. But like I said, there could be up to three people from that house of worship participate, and at least one has to attend every meeting. So if the senior pastor, you know, is one of them, and he comes to some of the meetings, that will suffice. But if he's not going to attend any, then I don't know that you will, be as competitive as a house of worship where the pastor is committed to engaging in the program fully.
Next question is, do you need to be in the city of Charlotte?
So I think we asked the city of Charlotte, and the answer was the house of worship technically doesn't have to be in the city of Charlotte, but the project itself, the housing project, the community serving facility project has to be within the city of Charlotte because of the funding sources that might be made available for that project and the resources.
Okay. And next question here is, does a church who has control and ownership of a building to provide community services be eligible as cohort participants? I guess
Can you say
they're
that?
asking, yeah,
That
can a
that
church who has control and ownership of a building to provide community services be eligible as cohort participants?
I guess it depends on what they want to do with the community serving facility. Are they looking to expand? Are they looking to tear it down and build new? It depends on what their goals are around the community serving facility. But if they are a house of worship or a church and they own a property and they have the intent of exploring the community serving facility in that manner that I mentioned, whether it's expansion, tear down and rebuild, they would be eligible.
Okay, and could you please explain more about community service facility development project and what does that look like?
Yeah, again, it can take a number of different iterations. It depends on what the community needs. If you're a house of worship in a community that is in a food desert and you want to do a community co-op, type of grocery store or whatever, that can, would definitely strongly be considered. If you are pursuing a daycare because there's a lack of adequate daycare in the community, that would be a community serving facility. If it's I'm trying to think of other things, a senior daycare, I think that is gaining traction now. That would be eligible. Any facility that is serving the community, that's open to the community, and is supporting the needs of the community, are eligible for the program.
Okay. Next question here is, when can we see the actual meeting schedule? Knowing dates will be critical in scheduling our senior pastor.
Absolutely. So we will confirm with the city of Charlotte that it's okay to send that out, and we will send that out with the follow-up email with the slides, the recording, and that tentative schedule. And I say it's tentative. It's pretty much locked, but there could be some things that happen that we may have to change things here or there. But I think for the most part, we have it fully fleshed out.
Okay. Next question is, how are technical advisors, i.e. developers, architects, land planners, etc., selected as part of the cohort process? Will there be a
Absolutely.
different team for each of the 12 churches selected?
Absolutely. So, two things. So, one, I'll see if Shannon can do this while I'm talking. So, in order for enterprise to have an idea of who provides those types of services, what their qualifications are, we have what is called a request for qualifications. It's a open process where we ask architects, real estate attorneys, any development professionals to, if they are interested in being listed in our bullpen of professional technical assistance providers, to complete that. We don't, we don't tell a house of worship who they have to go with. The reason for us, trying to populate that bullpen is we give them a couple alternatives. If they need a real estate attorney, we give them 3 names, tell them to reach out to them, have a conversation, and see who is best fit or suited to work with you based on the relationship that you established during those calls. So that's the first thing. We had an RFQ for this particular program. I believe the city of Charlotte also has a process in place where they've identified some professionals that will be made available to the house of worship participating in the program. So as we get closer to being in the midst of the program, we'll look at what that looks like. If some houses of worship need those resources earlier than the completion of the curriculum, we'll see about how to make those available at that time. But for this program, it's going to be a little bit different. But we do typically pair each house of worship with their own development consultant. And that person might work with a couple of different houses of worship, but they will be assigned to work specifically with you on the next steps that you need for your individual project.
Okay, thanks. Next question is there a minimum number of units that enterprise generally shoots for developing?
No. So in our 33, 32, 33 houses of worship that we're working with right now, they run the gamut from anywhere from 4 single family affordable housing units to 335 multifamily apartment units.
Okay. Next question is, our church may not be quite ready to move ahead at this time. What is the likelihood that this program will be repeated next year?
That's a good question. I can't make any promises. I guess a lot of it depends on how successful we are with this program and how successful we are with raising additional resources to fund other cohort programs. So yeah, I don't have a definite answer on that right now.
Okay. And there was a question that says, juvenile justice skill building program, church in Concord, location in Charlotte as an expansion program. Are you granting the outfit of the location? That question may need to be re-asked. Christina Jarrett, if you could just reword your question there. and we can get right to it. Next question is, who owns the completed building?
Um, that's a good question, and that can take a number of different scenarios, and that is taught in the curriculum. So it's it could be negotiated where you do a ground lease into the development from the church. So the house of worship, ground leases for 99 years the property into the deal so that the project can get done. And then but they maintain ownership after that 99 years. But we talk about the different ways that you can structure a joint venture partnership. And because every house of worship has different goals and different aspiration as to what they want to see for the project. We have some house of worship that just want to flat out sell their property into the project, get that influx of cash to do what they need to do for their ministry. But we teach you about different scenarios. There's no one right size fit all. It depends on what the goals, what the vision is, and what it is that the house of worship and the congregation is trying to accomplish.
Okay. Next question is, will the grant pay for building the classrooms?
Building what classrooms? Is that the question that was pertaining to the training thing?
I believe so.
I might have to take that offline because I'm not quite sure I understand the context. Is it yeah, don't quite. Yeah, I'll have to take that offline. If they wouldn't mind, sending that to me at the T block at Enterprise Community Partners, I can go into a little bit more detail about that because I'm not quite grasping everything about that question.
Okay. Sounds good. Any more questions? Folks, a few seconds here to drop any more questions in the chat if you have them. I think that is it. Will you please share contact info?
Voila, you ask, you shall receive. Yeah, so my contact information is here. My direct office line is there, my email address. Feel free to contact me with any questions, big or small, about the program, the process. Again, if it's technical about Slide Room, you might be better suited at reaching out directly to Slide Room first. And like I said, if they're slow to respond, then reach out to me. But this has been great. I am so excited with the number of participants that were on this webinar. Looking forward to receiving some great applications and looking forward to bringing our faith-based development initiative cohort to the city of Charlotte in partnership with the city of Charlotte. So I want to thank the city of Charlotte team for selecting us and entrusting us with the program. Warren Wooten and Jessica, want to thank you all and look forward to getting this program launched and running and building off the great work that you all have already been doing with the houses of worship in Charlotte.
And one last question from our distinguished council member is Lawana Mayfield, what are next steps?
Absolutely. So I should have thanked you too, Councilwoman. Thank you so much for the opportunity. The next steps is, and I kind of hit on it on the timeline, but the let's see. I was looking for the timeline. So the next steps are the applications are due on September. Actually, let me see if I can go back to that slide so I'm not guessing. Let's go back. Oh, here we go. All right, so Councilwoman, the submission deadline for the applications, the application is open, are due September 12th. And then we will evaluate and have our selection process with site visits to the house of worship that we're considering for the program between September 22nd and October 3rd. And then the goal is to announce the award recipients on October 7th, with the first curriculum training starting on September the 16th. So those are our next steps and our timeline. Hopefully that answered your question.
Indeed, it did. Thank you so much. And if there aren't any more questions, we can end this meeting. Thanks everyone for joining. Please feel free to click on the link and apply to join the cohort. Oh, one more question came in from Ian. Does the church need to provide the covenant for the construction loan?
The covenant for the construction loan. I think that's an individual case by case scenario, but not necessarily. Yeah, so because not Ian, 9 times out of 10, like I mentioned before, the house of worship is going to partner with a development partner, and that development partner would be the entity that does a lot of that, structuring the deal, and creating another entity that actually applies for the financing for the project. But again, all that is covered in the curriculum that we go over and help houses of worship understand that process, again, so that they don't feel like they're being taken advantage of in the process, but also that they understand the process, the jargon, and all that entails. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you so much. And with that, we will end this meeting. Again, you all should receive more information being that you registered for this webinar, and we look forward to seeing your applications and hearing from you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thank you.